Humans have always seen themselves as different.
Special or other than.
We're definitely the most advanced creatures on Earth.
I think it's due to, it's just the amount we've done compared to other animals, like the amount of civilization we have built.
They can work together and they can have their own imagination and think of things that aren't real.
But we might actually be closer than we think. So what do we mean by this?
Well, many of the things that make humans so special, communication and the use of language, complex societal structures, and cognitive abilities, can be found in countless other organisms, everywhere from dolphins to trees.
So, let's swim with the fishes and dive into our first topic.
That being dolphins. Duncan. Did you know that dolphins sometimes eat cephalopods like octopi?
No, I didn't.
Seriously, I'm not squidding.
Lily, no. Please stop.
Why? I thought the joke was fantastic.
Lily, that is enough.
Okay, I'm done. Why don't you tell me how dolphins compare to people?
Alright, sure. Dolphins and humans both share one key characteristic, vocalized communication, which is science talk for using your voice to talk with one another.
Just like you and me?
Exactly. Bottlenose dolphins and other species communicate using two different types of sound, clicks and whistles. Clicks tend to be used for echolocation, but are occasionally used for social communication. Whistles, on the other hand, are almost entirely used for communication between dolphins. Humans have even deciphered a bit of their language. Every bottlenose dolphin develops a unique sound used to identify themselves, called a signature whistle, similar to how humans identify themselves with names. Depending on the context it's used in, a dolphin signature whistle can be a greeting or even a distress call if one of them separated from the pod.
Wow, I never knew that all those clicks and whistles of dolphins actually meant something. Let's see if biology professor from Walsh University, Dr. Freeland, has something to add about this.
Vocalizations then allow you to find mates. I hear a noise and it sounds like the noise I'm making. That might be a member of my species. Perhaps it's a mate. But when organisms can now communicate with each other, they can warn each other off. Now we don't have to fight and kill each other. We can just make a noise and everybody can stay on their own. Once the brain becomes big enough, this communication can become a source of lying, a source of manipulation. With big enough brains to hold memories about certain individuals, now the liar becomes known for the reputation. Once vocal communication starts leading to survival and reproductive success, who knows how far it could go. People could start writing the noises down on paper, and then people can start writing things that aren't true for the entertainment of other people. So we don't call them liars, we call them writers, we call them our entertainers. So this is, we are in a long line of organisms that have used vocal communication as an enhancement to our survival and reproductive success, and we've taken it to a pretty advanced level. But it's not a different category, it's just more of the same stuff.
Thanks, Dr. Freeland. What's even more exciting is that scientists are beginning to believe that dolphins use their language in more and more complex ways.
Biologist Rebecca A. Hamilton and Doctor of Marine Science Stefan Gatza, in collaboration with the Cedar Key Dolphin Project, conducted a study on the sounds that dolphins made during their diver barrier feeding in 2022. They found that during complex hunting trips, like diver barrier feeding, dolphins rarely use their whistle to communicate at all. However, immediately before the event, dolphins used noticeably more whistles. The authors hypothesized that the large degree of communication before the hunts could be used in order to coordinate and plan out the hunt afterwards. They mentioned a study conducted on captive dolphins done in 2021 that demonstrated that dolphins who use whistles more frequently before tasks that require coordination, and showed that the dolphins that did utilize these whistles more frequently were more successful, suggesting that dolphins might use whistle communication to coordinate with each other before the actual event. These authors do stress, however, that the results are not conclusive and the exact nature of dolphin communication remains uncertain.
The results are interesting nonetheless. Maybe one day we can learn dolphin language.
Learning human languages is already hard enough.
I guess so.
Moving on to dry lands, ants.
When I was a kid, my brother and I got an ant farm in the mail.
In the mail.
Yes, in the mail. The ants started really, really tiny, and we got to watch them grow and tunnel. It was really cool, and by the end, the ants were huge, and they had an extensive tunnel system.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense because ants are famous for their ability to work together and build these massive tunnel systems and buildings. Depending on the species, a mature colony can be anywhere between 10 square feet to, for one super colony in southern Europe, 3,700 miles with a population of over 1 billion.
Wow, they've really spread throughout the world just like humans have. In a paper published by several professors from NYU titled Recent Advances in Behavioral, EPI, Genetics in Eusocial Insects, the biomass of all ants is equivalent to that of all humans, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's made possible through their efficient social structures. Scientists refer to these social structures as eusociality.
Ants' eusociality is key to their success as an organism, and they can do a lot more than just build tunnels.
Like
agriculture. According to the aforementioned paper, leafcutter ants are known to engage in sustainable agriculture. They farm in order to feed their colony. Leafcutter workers collectively forage, clean, and reserve leaves for the purpose of growing and farming fungi.
Not only that, but ants build things too. Ecticon hamatum, or army ants, have learned to form bridges out of themselves in order to get around obstacles. These quote-unquote ant bridges allow for ants to travel and transport food efficiently across unknown terrain. Agriculture, infrastructure, ants' realities are just like a more peaceful mini version of humans.
Well, the nationalists like Camponitus ants have an advanced system of recognizing ants from their own colony. If they find another colony, they will immediately begin warfare with their neighbors to take over their resources.
Now that sounds a lot more like humans. However, the Harpanigus would often accept refugees from other ant colonies into their own, building their own steady population.
Well, that's nice. That almost restored my faith in ant society. But I'm about to tell you about some serious ant espionage.
Ant espionage?
Yes, the slave-making ant will infiltrate another species colony, kill the queen, and start to mimic the queen's behavior and their chemical profile, basically stealing their identity, making the workers believe that this imposter is actually their queen. Thus, the fake queen will use their new workers to manipulate them into doing their bidding.
Ant slaves. I've truly heard it all.
I know, it's crazy.
Last, but certainly not least, trees.
Trees are actually really cool. I was the kid growing up that ran around barefoot and climbed every tree in the neighborhood.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense for you.
Did you climb trees?
No, not really.
That is so sad. Climbing trees was a hallmark of my childhood. But there is so much more to trees than everyone thinks. Peter Wollenben, in his book The Secret Life of Trees, wrote about how most individual trees of the same species growing in the same stand are connected to each other through their root systems. It appears that nutrient exchange and helping neighbors in times of need is the rule. And this leads to the conclusion that forests are superorganisms with interconnections much like ant colonies.
Here is Dr. Freeland to better explain this system for us.
Well, the plant root, many stands of trees are actually one organism. So if you see a lot of trees and they seem to be communicating in some way, maybe their roots are all part of the same system and they're actually one organism. This has been witnessed many times where thousands of trees covering many, many acres of land are one individual organism. Well, how about just trees and plants that are not one individual but that are just together? Well, they are connected by the mycorrhizal network. Myco means fungus, rhizo means roots. So what are mycorrhizal networks? The fungi that live in all soils are wrapping around the roots of most plants, certainly most trees, or all trees probably. So as the fungus wraps around the roots of the plant's chemical signals are moving into the fungus. And as these signals move through the mycelium, the body of the fungus, they can have an influence on the same fungal organism that's wrapped around the roots of many other plants.
Thank you once again.
A simpler term for the mycorrhizal network is the Wood Wide Web. These mycorrhizal networks allow trees and fungi to share resources like nitrogen, water, carbon, and minerals, writes the National Forest Foundation, Underground Networking, the amazing connections beneath our feet.
That's really cool.
Yes, but what's cooler is how trees use the Wood Wide Web.
The mycorrhizal network?
Whatever, it's literally the same thing. What I was saying was hub trees or mother trees are the center of the Wood Wide Web. They are the oldest trees in the forest and have the most connections. When trees are struggling, then the mother tree sends them nutrients through the system to help sustain them. Trees can also recognize the root tips of their relatives and tend to favor them over other trees.
There is really so much more going on under the ground than everyone thinks.
I know. And another weird one is that trees have senses.
What do you mean by senses?
I mean that Peter Wollenben found that trees can taste the saliva of bugs eating their leaves, and then they pump chemicals into them that repels the insect. Then they produce a scent that gets carried on the wind to warn other trees of the bugs, so the trees in that area smell it and can start producing that chemical before the pests even reach their leaves.
Alright, that's 2, but you're missing a few.
Okay, I'm getting there. Let me cover touch and hearing. Trees can produce a crackling noise of 20 hertz through their roots, and tree seedlings who hear this then orient their roots in that direction so they can make a connection with the older tree. For touch, when trees feel the root tip of another tree, they, through fungi's mycelia, make a connection.
And to think that people believe that these trees are just boring lumps of wood.
They really have no idea. But the thing that stands out to me the most is how trees synchronize their performance so they are all equally successful.
That sounds a bit like communism.
Trees are a socialist society, but sure, I guess you could say that. There really is so much more to these organisms than most people think.
I know. Something everyone thinks is uniquely human is that we work together, but we found that all the organisms above communicated and collaborated in their own unique ways. Sound, smell, or complex interspecies mycorrhizal fungal networks.
Oh yeah, that's all. Just complex interspecies mycorrhizal fungal networks.
In all seriousness though, humans have been destroying these animals' natural habitats for thousands of years, and they rationalize it by saying that humans are somehow more special and more intelligent.
Throughout this podcast, we found that humans and animals really do share more similarities than differences. Maybe if people understood this, then they wouldn't be so quick to destroy the homes of our fellow inhabitants of Earth.
We could all really do a better job.
And you, by listening to our podcast, have already taken the first step.